Week 8 of the 2023 college football season is upon us, and we got some games to get into. Let's preview and predict them. Let's go. Starting off, we got Air Force, who is undefeated through 6 games this year. They're on the road against Navy. I don't care what you say. Now, I understand Air Force hasn't played anyone crazy, but the fact that they are 6-0, that is really good. They are a 10.5 point favorite against Navy. That's a lot of points. I would not bet this game. I've never really bet the Academy games. I just don't. But I'm excited to watch this game. I'm always excited to watch any of the Air Force, Army, or Navy games. I think it's really fun. I love that they do that. And the fact that Air Force is 6-0 is great. I'm excited to watch this game. Cannot wait. I don't care who wins. I just want it to be a good game. No injuries. Excited. Moving on. UCF, who was 3-3, on the road against Oklahoma, number 6 in the country. Oklahoma was 6-0. Oklahoma is a 19-point favorite at home against UCF. Oklahoma's coming off a huge emotional win from last week against Texas in the annual Red River rivalry. That was a tremendous win for them, a huge win. They stay in the front. They're the front leaders for their conference. They're still in it for the playoffs. I mean, that was a huge win for them. UCF is not a good team. Just come out. They've lost to both of the Kansas teams, Baylor. In my opinion, Oklahoma should win this game. I want to see how they respond after such an emotional win. That's one of the biggest rivalries left in today's college football. 19-point favorite. Honestly, if Oklahoma wants to keep everything in front of them, especially at home, I want to see how they respond after that. Can they cover the spread? This is a lot of points. I'm taking Oklahoma to win. I want to take Oklahoma to cover the spread. UCF is not a good team, especially now that UCF has to travel. I can see Oklahoma making another statement win and beating UCF at home and covering the spread. At least they should. They should. I hope this is not a letdown spot for them. I have no reason to believe that they would lose, but I don't want this to be a close game for them. They should win and win big. Moving on, we have Washington State, who's 4-2, at Oregon, who is 5-1. Obviously, we know the tough loss for Oregon last week against Washington. Can they bounce back? Now, Oregon is home. They are I think they're a 20-point, I can't even read my own handwriting, but they're around a 20-point favorite. And Washington State they're not the worst team, but they're not at the level where Oregon is. Can Oregon bounce back? Can they get past their loss to Washington last week and move forward? Can they build off the things that they did right? It wasn't a bad game for Oregon. A lot of it was poor coaching decisions by Dan Lanning. Sorry, I keep burping. Poor coaching decisions by Dan Lanning. He had a lot of aggressive attempts. He was just too aggressive. That kind of cost them. If he would have kicked a couple of field goals, maybe the score would have been different. So it wasn't that Oregon played a bad game. They just found a way to lose. That's the way I describe that loss for Oregon. They found a way to lose. But can they bounce back and beat a significantly less capable team in Washington State, especially at home? I'm curious to see how that game's going to go. I'm taking Oregon. They should win. 20 points is a lot, but Oregon should cover that 20 points, especially with Bo Nix at the helm. Moving on, the other side of that, you have Arizona State, who's 1-5, at Washington, who's 6-0. Washington is a 26.5 point favorite. That's a ton of points. But Arizona State is a horrible team. They have one win. They have one win this year, 5 losses. They just can't get anything going. Offense, defense, nothing. I mean, look at the record. Look at their season. They haven't won. The one win that they have, I don't even know who that team is. Either way, I would like to also see on the flip side of the Oregon, how does Washington respond after such a huge emotional win? Do they come out with that fire in them, still wanting to compete and like, let's go? Can they cover this 26.5 point spread at home? They should. Against a team in Arizona State, they easily should. So both of those games I'm really excited for, just to see how these teams respond. And I just want to see, how they respond. Like, well, what do they look like after one team's coming off a huge loss, one team's coming off a huge win? I think that's going to tell us a lot about each of these teams moving forward in the season, because everything is still in front of both of these teams. So I can't wait for those two games. Moving on, trying to go along here. We have Arkansas, who's 2-4 on the road against number 19 LSU, who is 5-2. LSU is a 31.5 point favorite. That is an insane amount of points. 31 point favorite? What? This is a huge spread. I mean, my only thing is I'm taking LSU to win this game. As much as I'm a huge fan of Sam Pittman, I think he has done great things for Arkansas. I don't know if he was ready for a head coaching job. But this is just a tough spot for Arkansas. They're coming off an emotional loss, a hard-fought loss against Bama, going on the road in Death Valley against LSU. My one thing to kind of keep an eye on is how does LSU come out and play they have their bye week coming up, and then they have Alabama next. Are they looking ahead? Now, it's a little hard to say that they're looking ahead because they have that bye week next weekend before the Bama game, but it could be a look-ahead spot. If I were to pick a trap game on LSU's schedule, even though they've already lost 2 games, if I were to pick a trap game that was left, I would pick this Arkansas team. I mean, Arkansas has nothing to lose. They have 2 wins on the season. They are basically out there just to play ball at this point. Arkansas is out on that field just to play ball. So can LSU find a way to win and win big? Are they looking ahead? Can Arkansas spring the upset? This game could get interesting. Keep an eye on this game. I'm taking LSU to win. I am taking LSU to win big. I do not know about that 31 points. That's an insane amount, but I'm taking LSU to win. Up next is 5-1 Duke on the road against number 4 rated FSU, who is 6-0. Duke is number 16 in the country. FSU is a 14.5 point favorite. Both of these teams are still in the ACC title race. Duke's only loss, Duke only has 1 loss. Obviously, FSU is undefeated. I'm taking FSU to win. I'm not even worried about the point spread. I don't care if FSU wins by 1, 2, 3, or 100 points. I'm taking FSU to win. I think this is their statement game to the FSU's statement game to the country to show we are back. We are finally back. In recent past, these are the games that FSU seems to find a way to lose. There's no real reason. They're the better team. On paper, you wouldn't take them to lose. But for some reason, they find a way to lose these types of games. This game is at home for FSU. They need to win this game. If they want to keep everything in front of them, and even with a loss in this game, everything is still kind of in front of them, but it's going to make things a lot more difficult. They would have to win out every single game. They'd have to win out the rest of their season, and they would have to win the ACC championship, conference championship. But if FSU can get through this game, that is them. I understand that they finally got over their boogeyman in Clemson and Dabo Swinney. But this is another step for them to say, nope, with all our recent history past, we're not going to fall back into the same cycle. We're taking that step up, and we're going to win this game at home. Like I said, I don't care if you win by 1 point. I don't care if you win by a blocked field goal or a missed field goal from Duke. Find a way to win this game to prove to everyone that you deserve that 4th-ranked team in the country. So I'm taking FSU in that game. But nonetheless, it's going to be a great game. I'm so excited to watch. Wouldn't surprise me if Duke won. Even though I'm taking FSU, it would not surprise me if I look at that score and FSU found a way to lose that game. I hope they don't, but we'll see. Moving on, number 2, Michigan, who's undefeated 7-0 on the road against Michigan State, who is 2-4. Michigan is I think a 24-point favorite. Michigan should win this game and win this game big. With all the issues going on at Michigan State, I don't even have much to say. I mean, it's horrible to see what has happened to that program. I really respected that head coach over at Michigan State because he did coach for Georgia. But the things that he kind of found himself caught up into, I don't want to get much into that, even though I don't really. Stories of little fishy. Y'all can Google it. Just Google Michigan State. But Michigan should win this game. I mean, Michigan State doesn't have a head coach. They haven't looked good. Even if they did have their head coach, they still haven't looked good on offense or defense. Michigan should win this game and win this game big. If Michigan comes out to another slow start, at this point we're 8 games through the season. That might just be who Michigan is if they start off slow. Just same way with Georgia. We're 8 games through the season. You're just slow on offense. So I'm curious to see how they start. Can Michigan start fast, cover the spread, get a win, go back home? We'll see. Moving right along, Utah, who is 5-1. At USC, who is also 5-1. USC is a 7-point favorite. USC had an ugly loss last week against Notre Dame. That was a 48-20 loss. I mean, yeah, I caught it. USC, even though they have Caleb Williams and they have looked deadly on offense, they have no defense. I've said it in every single time I've talked about USC, and I'll continue to say it. When you have a Lincoln Riley team, and this is a proven fact, go back through and look at every single team that Lincoln Riley has been the head coach of. Not program, but team, individual team from year to year to year. Every time that defense steps on the field, it's literally like their defense closes their eyes and they don't even know what they're doing. And now while their defense really didn't cost them this game, they did give up 48 points, but Caleb Williams had a horrible game. He played ugly. I mean, he didn't look good. Can they bounce back? Plain and simple. Can USC bounce back at home? They are the favorite at home against Utah. Both teams are still in the race for the Pac-12 title. And I don't know if y'all saw the news about this whole controversy of Caleb Williams saying that if he doesn't like the team that he gets recruited by, he's just not going to play for him. He's going to go back to college and play another year in college. And while that's his right, kind of seems like a joke. And it also states that whatever NFL team Caleb Williams gets drafted by, he wants partial ownership. Bubba. What are we doing? What are we doing? How do we even have any room in the world of college football today to even make jokes about that? Fuck you, kid. You're a kid. You haven't even stepped foot on a practice team for an NFL team and you want partial ownership? I hope that's a fucking joke. Because if he's being serious, he doesn't even deserve to be in the league if he's being serious. You can't even beat Notre Dame. Get the fuck out of here. Either way, you know what? Just for that alone, give me Utah. I'm taking Utah to get the upset on the road against USC. That defense is going to be horrible. Bear Alexander ain't shit. And Caleb Williams will have another poor game. Even if he has a great game, their defense is horrible. And Lincoln Riley will again to prove that he cannot be the head coach of a football team because he can't have a decent defense. Moving right along before I go on a rant. Ole Miss, who's 5-1, on the road against Auburn, who's 3-3. Ole Miss is a 6.5-point favorite. Ole Miss is still technically in the running for the SEC West. Now, they need a lot of things to go their way. They need Alabama to lose a couple more games, and Ole Miss needs to win out. So, mathematically, they are still in the race for the SEC West. It's a long shot, but they're still there. I've made my opinion clear before. I think Lane Kiffin is he's more of a troll than a head coach. I think he loves to be in the college football world just to troll on social media than anything. Give me Auburn. I'm taking Auburn to win this game. I think Ole Miss catches another loss. And Lane Kiffin will have some witty thing to say on Twitter. So give me Auburn. I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss wins. I mean, Auburn is not a good football team. First year, they're not. It's not that they're not a good football team. They are. They're fighting hard this season. They did have an ugly loss against LSU. That was a really bad loss for them. I mean, they just didn't. LSU controlled that game, but Auburn has fought hard throughout this season under first year Hugh Freeze. But I think they'll fight hard again. So give me Auburn. Moving right along, Texas, number 8 Texas, who's 5-1 on the road against Houston, who's 3-3. Texas is a 23.5-point favorite. We talked their previous counterpart earlier in the video, Oklahoma. While Oklahoma's coming off a huge win, Texas is coming off a huge loss. How do they respond? In the past, Texas kind of seems to have that one bad loss and the season spirals. This is the moment to prove that Texas is back. The horns aren't down, they're up. This is the game. Texas has to win this game. They have to, plain and simple. If they don't, I don't want to hear another thing about Texas for the rest of the year. They should win this game on the road against a horrible Houston team who is just barely 500. I say barely, even though they're 500. They're 500. You have to win this game. Here's the teams that Houston has beat. West Virginia, Sam Houston, and UTSA. And they barely beat UTSA. I forgot to write down the score, but it was like a 3-point win. Their losses are against Texas Tech, TCU, and Rice. How do you lose to Rice? You can't lose to food. So Texas has to find a way to beat this Houston team. I mean, if not, Texas will never be back. Moving right along, because this video's getting long. South Carolina is 2-4 on the road against Mizzou, who's 6-1. Mizzou is a 7-point favorite at home. I have said all season long that I do not think Mizzou is a good team. I don't think they deserve to be in the SEC. I still stand by that. But I have to just be honest. And Mizzou has played great. They played good. Now, I don't think they've played a lot of teams. I mean, they beat up on a Kansas State team who's unranked now. Look at their other season. They were up 24 points against LSU, and they found a way to win. I'm trying really hard to find a reason to keep... I'm trying hard to find a reason to see Mizzou winning each game, and I can't find one. But they keep winning. Mizzou keeps winning. So, and South Carolina doesn't look good. So, give me Mizzou at home. Mizzou, if I take y'all and y'all lose this game, fuck y'all. Y'all better win this game. At least make that Mizzou-Georgia game worth watching later in the season. Moving on to our last 2 games that I'm really excited for. Well, actually, we got 3 more games. I'm going to go through this next one kind of quick. Tennessee, who's 5-1, number 17 Tennessee, 5-1, on the road against number 11 Bama, who's 6-1. Both teams still have everything in front of them, but Tennessee has to win this game. If Tennessee wants to stay in contention for anything, for the playoffs, for the SEC championship, or the SEC East, the SEC championship, they have to win this game. We all know Tennessee beat Bama last year, their first time in 15, 20, I don't know. First time in a long time when they beat Alabama. Both teams haven't looked good this season. Bama looked good against Mississippi State and Ole Miss, but they looked horrible in that second half against Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas had every chance to win that game. Bama held off and found a way to win, but that second half looked horrible for Alabama. Alabama got exposed and humiliated at home against Texas. Tennessee hasn't looked good. They lost to a horrible Florida Gators team this year. Granted, that game was on the road in Gainesville, but still, like that, Joe Milton hasn't looked like the quarterback you want. Like, he just hasn't looked good. I'm taking Bama, and I'm taking Bama with the 9 points. It would not shock me. I would not be shocked if I woke up Sunday morning and Tennessee found a way to win this game. But if I had to put money where my mouth is, I would take Bama, and I would take Bama to win big at home. Not big, but I would take them to win by at least double digits. I'm just excited to see what goes on in this game. I can't wait. Moving right along, we've got Penn State 6-0 on the road against Ohio State, who is also 6-0. I'm going to come around and say it. I am taking Penn State to win this game. Ohio State is a 4.5-point favorite. I think Penn State not only covers, but they just win outright win. Penn State, I have the numbers here real quick. Average, Penn State is passing for 223 yards, rushing yards 203. Ohio State passing for 308 yards a game, rushing for 135 average per game. Penn State hasn't won this game in a while. Can they finally break through and win the big game this year? Because this is the last chance for James Franklin. He has proven to be a solid 10-2 win coach, but he hasn't won the big games that he needs to win. It's kind of like Mark Richt at Georgia. Mark Richt was always a solid 9-3, 10-win coach, winning their bowl game. He would win the games he needs to win, but he would always lose the games that, just to get you right over the hump, he would find a way to lose. This is the year for Penn State to do it. Can they do it? I think they do. Ohio State, and not even Ohio State as a team, I think Ryan Day is too emotional of a head coach. I've bitched and complained on this channel many times about my feelings about Ryan Day. I think he is a joke of a head coach. I think he's too emotional. I can't stand the guy. I don't see it in the cards for Ohio State. They haven't looked good this season. Their only good win is against Notre Dame, a 3-point win. Yes, it was on the road, but Notre Dame had 10 men on the field on their last 2 defensive drives. Now, I'm not saying if Notre Dame had 11 men, they would have stopped them, but, I mean, it would have gone a lot better for Notre Dame. They would have better chances. Here's Ohio State's previous wins. And this drives me crazy. I said I had 3 more games. This is my last one. They have a win on the road against Indiana, who is 2-4. Indiana is 2-4. They won that game 23-3. Then they come back home for their second game. They beat a Youngstown State, who was 3-3. They won that game 35-7. They stayed at home playing Western Kentucky, who was 4-2. They won that game 63-10. So they put up a lot of points. Then they went on the road. They had their marquee win this season against a Notre Dame team who was 6-2. They beat them by 3 points, which I just said. Then they still at home. Do they ever play road games? They beat a Maryland team who was 5-2. They won that game 37-17. So they won by 20 against. How do you give up 17 to Maryland? Anyway, keep going. And then they played. Their last game was against a 2-5 Purdue team. They won that game 41-7. This is not the year for Ohio State. I think Ryan Day will continue to prove that he also cannot win the big games. I think he is too emotional. The fact that the very first thing that come to Ryan Day's mind after that huge emotional win on the road against Notre Dame was to call an 86-year-old man. I just can't get over that. What are you doing, man? You're a head coach making millions of dollars, and that's your first. You don't congratulate. You half-ass congratulate your team. You half-ass. You give them like a 30-second congratulatory statement, and you go on a minute rant about an 86-year-old man who talks shit about your soft team. Guess what? You got a soft-ass team, and you're losing this game. Penn State and James Franklin are finding a way to win, and they're going to whoop your ass at home, getting your first loss of the season. Either way, Exciting weekend of games coming up. Slate of games coming up this weekend. Cannot wait to watch. It's going to be a good one. Let's see if I'm right. On that, over and out.